Two of our favorite podcasts are crossing over every 2 weeks. Kate Achille of Up Next at Work and George LaRocque of Work Tech look at the tech, business, and people that impact our HR and work tech industry. It's a crosspod with a unique strategic lens on what's happening in our world. Enjoy!
Hey there, welcome back to Up Next at Work Tech. It's 2020. Hey George, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great for 2026. I'm freezing cold here on the East Coast. Actually, today was, it's been cold when it's 34 degrees and you feel like it's spring.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's balmy here today on the East Coast, but we're making our way through the month of January. It's been a year already and it's still January.
Yeah.
But we're back with our first episode and boy, there is a lot happening this week in the HR tech space, isn't there?
There is a lot happening this week. I think there's the big story this week. Do you want me to go there first?
Sure thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eightfold was not going to let Workday have all the fun. So they are now joining the class action lawsuit party. So they're being sued by it's a class action suit. So it's open for more plaintiffs, and this suit is similar but different. They're using the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and based on the fact that Eightfold is not disclosing, and I guess I would say Eightfold and their customers not disclosing the fact that when these candidates are applying for jobs, the disclosure is not made that they are then creating a profile of the candidate that's based on scraping information across myriad undefined sources because it's not disclosed.
Mm-hmm.
And then this information is used to make a decision as to whether this person or these people get hired. And, this is another case about AI making decisions or largely influencing decisions and without disclosure communication with candidates. And I think we were talking before, and I think you brought up a great point. Like this is not the last lawsuit we're going to see.
Oh, it's definitely not the last lawsuit we're going to see because obviously the job applicants have gotten hip to, how much AI is involved in the hiring process at this point. And, you and I were talking about the language that's used in the opening of the actual complaint, which is available online. It is 35 pages long for anybody who feels like reading it. But in the first paragraph, Eightfold is accused of lurking in the background, and the plaintiffs have called out that, they have no meaningful opportunity to review or dispute the AI-generated report before it informs a decision about one of the most important aspects of their lives, which, tend to agree with them there. Obviously, work is really important to all of us, especially given the cost of living these days and given the job market and unemployment rates. This is, a very serious matter for a lot of people. So disclosure, communication, candidate experience, those are all big factors in this suit. Obviously, this is very different from Workday because it's not age specific. This applies to everyone across the board who's an applicant from, this could be frontline workers, it could be high volume, it could be anyone who's using Eightfold, basically. I know the Reuters article that's been circulating calls out a number of Eightfold's customers. Microsoft, I think PayPal's in there. There's a few others, companies that are named. But one of the other things that has been cited as a potential fallout from this case is, if a judge does rule against Eightfold, what will the impact be for other technologies in the space? And that's a very serious matter that I think a lot of the vendor community needs to start thinking about now, because if you have a solution that does, AI matching or sourcing or resume fraud detection or any of the like, this could have serious ramifications from a compliance perspective.
And I would say, I would even go a little bit further and say maybe they should start caring about it, because there's been so much talk about this. You're right. The Workday case is about discrimination, but the discrimination is based on the technology making a decision, which is discriminatory. In this case, they're saying the technology is making a decision based on getting all this information that you didn't agree to give us
Mm-hmm.
and not telling us what the decision's based on or truly based on. But that Workday suit was the first shot across the bow. And we know about explainability and we know about compliance. And, there have been many suits over the decades, going way back to Resumix was a client server based applicant tracking system. And Disney was at the center of a lawsuit that I think it was a race-based discrimination case, class action at that time. I think it was a class action, but it was definitely a case based on those things. And so this, that concept isn't new. What is new, though, along with the point that you brought up, is the technology firms that like Workday and Eightfold are the plaintiffs here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the defendants. I guess. Yeah. Not the employers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess the employers could get dragged into it, but that used to be sort of the technology firms were indemnified from this literally, contractually, but the employers are not who's getting sued in these cases.
No.
So that's an interesting development.
Well, I think this is, because of like New York City local law 144, where it's the vendor has to disclose on behalf of the employer, I think.
Right.
I think that's kind of maybe the precedent for some of these cases. It's also not lost on me when this suit was filed, because the Workday website just went up, didn't it, a few weeks ago? From that, it's live now where you can file your claim. Okay. So just timing wise, this Eightfold suit just seems to have hit at a very particular moment in time.
Do you think this is going to distract the founders from creating all of our digital twins in their new?
Well, they do have other, gosh, still so creeped out by that. But yes, I mean, they do have other things to deal with now.
Yeah.
But it will be very interesting to see how this plays out. I believe, this was also filed in California, I believe. So
yeah, I was reading
Workday Mobley,
the California thing. I think I want to read the quote that this law firm Outen and Golden did a thing. They posted this yesterday about the suit, and they quote one of the plaintiffs, but they also quote David Seligman, the executive director of Towards Justice. I don't know what Towards Justice is, but I think he, in his first couple of sentences, sums up the sentiment right now of everybody outside of the tech bubble. And it is, I quote, "Just because this company is using some fancy sounding AI technology and is backed by venture capital doesn't put it above the law. This isn't the Wild West." And I think it's a not a great job market. As you mentioned earlier, job applicants are savvy now, and they don't care about your fancy AI. So
they've got AI too. We're all walking around with supercomputers all the time.
Right. That's right.
So, and so I just Googled while we were talking who Towards Justice is, just out of curiosity. They are a nonprofit law firm that represents workers in litigation and other advocacy in an effort to build worker power. And they apparently are, it says, an MLK-inspired nonprofit. Oh. So, MLK Day was this week. Again,
that's right.
Just saying timing-wise.
Timing, that's interesting.
This is a very well-orchestrated class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
This is your friendly PR pro. Again, just saying.
That's why we do this, because you are our friendly PR pro.
You have to look at all of the elements in terms of what is being communicated here.
That's also a great segue to a little balancing story. It doesn't really fully balance it, but this is a little glimmer of hope. It's not in the U.S. though; it's in Australia, somewhere else, where Microsoft and Australian unions ink AI deal for worker protections and a $115 billion boost. So basically, Microsoft has signed into an agreement with the Australian Council of Trade Unions, aiming to integrate worker perspectives into the rollout of artificial intelligence in Australian workplaces. It gets into reskilling and training. It gets into these union delegates representing employees with consideration for fairness, activity gains, job creation, and it could unlock a $115 billion economic opportunity for Australia in the next by 2030. So, there's some.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Ames, your host of Signals, a Starbold Studios production. I'm taking bold ideas and real challenges submitted by leaders like you and turning them into powerful conversation with actionable results. Some weeks, I'll react in just 4 minutes. Others, I'll bring on experts for deeper dives. So send up a signal and I'll throw you a line.
Good energy out there too.
I think that's great. I've mentioned before, my husband is a union worker, so got a lot of union pride in this household. I think trade unions and labor unions in general can do a lot of good.
Yeah.
I think we could use more of them. And so perhaps what's happening in Australia will, again, I'm going to use the word precedent. Maybe this will be an example for other countries, maybe even ours.
Yeah. Yep. My dad was his whole working life was in the union, and it was, I think the same union that your husband's in, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW.
Yes.
But yeah, so I agree. I
got to tell you, and this is going to hurt a lot of people to hear, but IBW, the union that my husband's in, and I won't give the number.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of people's healthcare just went up exponentially. We don't pay anything. 100% of our benefits are covered through him. And that's a very big issue for people in the States right now. And given the job market for people who are considering things, and actually this is a good segue to our next story. If you have ever wanted to consider a trade, maybe now is the time, because
it's a great segue.
Wasn't planning this one, George. This one just worked. This one really just worked. And I don't know that I fully agree with who said this.
Yeah.
Or where this message came from, but I'm gonna share it. So this came from a Fortune article, but the CEO and founder of Palantir, not one of my favorite companies.
They are not cutting deals with trade unions.
They absolutely are not. Was at Davos this week, which I'll get to also in a second. And this is a direct quote. He said when he was in conversation with Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, another company that's not cutting any deals with trade unions.
Right.
And he was asked about how AI will affect jobs. And Alex Karp said, AI will destroy humanity's jobs. And he went on to say that, if you have a degree, and he used himself as an example because Alex Karp has a PhD in philosophy. If you have a degree in philosophy, any sort of humanity, he basically said it's going to be hard to get a job in the market because he thinks that's a largely useless degree. And he said you're going to have some sort of other skill. But he said there will be more than enough jobs for people with vocational training. So he's pushing for trade union, not trade unions, but trades, vocational training, things of that nature. He also went on to say in this article, though, that he thinks that the way we are looking and assessing people for jobs, we need to revisit, which I thought was kind of interesting. Obviously, Palantir, I'm sure they have a very specific way that they hire. Not sure which vendors they're using. Could be Eightfold. But, he does think that we're going to have to reassess that process. So do you think AI is going to destroy? That's a very strong word.
It is a very strong word. And I struggle with the whole concept that he's presenting because the thing that AI lacks is humanity. Like the thought that I think it was already my impression. I'm not an expert on this, but I think it's already tough for folks with looking for the kinds of jobs that he's talking about. I think those are not generally on the lists of where the jobs are next year. It's usually not. I mean, there was a time I think I remember seeing like social worker as a high demand for like a hot minute. So I'm just going to say this. In that article, he goes on to talk about like what school you might have come from, or like if you went to a bad school or not great school or some term like that he used. And I kind of wonder if he's got a degree in humanities. Is there a little like resentment going on? Head of Palantir and, this is like, don't do what I did Don't,
Yeah.
you'll regret it. I feel like, and it's creating fear about AI is the best way for these AI companies to get us all looking at AI. If you want people paying $20, $50 a month to learn how to use AI, tell them it's going to take their job unless they learn AI.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
That's true. That's a good point.
I'm getting really tired of that talk track,
Yeah.
of that. And I think there are a lot of real scary implications about AI in the workforce. And
Well, you raise a good point about the language he uses. He uses the word elite a lot. Elite schools.
Yep.
Not Ivy League, not top tier. He uses the word elite and he uses the word aptitude. These are very interesting and again, destroy. As I'm looking at his exact word choices, this is again my little PR brain is starting to kick in here. The word choice is starting to bug me. Maybe it was because he was at Davos,
which I think is pretty elite, isn't it?
It used to be.
Sorry that I did that to you.
I was telling George before we started, I'm a little salty on this. I have mentioned in the past that in a previous life, I ran marketing at a lecture agency, and I used to work with lots of very interesting thought leaders. And I used to send people like Fareed Zakaria and Tom Friedman and Nader Musavisadeh and Linda Rotenberg and people like that to Davos, where it was actually hard to even get them speaking spots at Davos. Now Davos is sort of like sponsored by, and there's a big difference between being at Davos and in Davos.
Yeah,
everyone.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Everyone is in Davos now. Very few people are at Davos. The World Economic Forum is still a very small event with very few speakers. Everyone else is in town at events down the street, essentially.
Yeah.
So, still cool to see what comes out of it, but it has become over the years just sort of a big show, kind of like South by Southwest and CES and all the big trade shows, just without.
Yeah. And that's to struggle getting those thought leaders. Those are actual thought leaders with actual leading thoughts.
Yes.
That are,
I had to learn how to spell Musavisadeh. Come on.
Excellent.
Okay.
Right.
What is next on our list? Okay. One more that we'll get into before we talk about a little bit more in the space. And I just thought this was interesting because I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. It seems to have flown under the radar a bit. But and they didn't really used to be great friends, and now it seems like they're going to be great pals. And that's Google and Apple have announced a multi-year, what they're saying is a collaboration, again, going to the word choice, where the next generation of Apple's foundation models are going to be based on both Gemini and Google's cloud technology. Whereas back in the day, you couldn't even open a PDF on your Apple laptop. Now Apple is playing ball with Google in a major way. So
I think it's a huge testament to Google's AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also underscores, if Apple didn't say such big things about where they were headed with AI, it wouldn't underscore what I'm about to say, which is that they're a little behind and they didn't really do much with AI. They missed that. Now, that being said, I have no idea what they're doing. But I remember seeing that and thinking it was interesting because, to your point, there was a time when Google Maps was the Maps app on a Google phone, and then they couldn't stand for that anymore. They had to have their own, and Apple Maps used to really be terrible. Now it's okay.
It was driving you into a lake half the time. Like Apple Maps was awful.
Yeah, but it was like. And now they're back to Google. So I guess, I don't know. I've been playing with Gemini more lately. I kind of use them all and keep an eye on them all. I feel like they had a new release in the last couple of months and it's good. It's like, I call these, like Gemini and ChatGPT and Perplexity, like not your best intern. That's how I kind of characterize it. And I would say, Like lately, Gemini's been my best mediocre intern. Like gets it right some of the time, but a lot of times I'm just correcting stuff. But anyhow,
They're trying though. It's like
Yeah.
a true intern. They're trying. They're trying
Right.
to learn.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But no, I mean, I guess it's also a testament to all of my friends who have had Google phones for years and have been trying to tell me to get
Oh,
off an
God.
iPhone. You know, because those people, the people who have the Google phones, like they really are like, the Google phone is so much better than the iPhone. You really should switch. And I'm always like, yeah.
I was on a iPhone early on.
Mhm.
Like I was like not the first iPhone, but then like the next one because it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta have one.
Mhm.
And I run everything off Google, right? So I actually went to Android
Mhm.
and I went back to iPhone because yes, it's like, okay, this is really super integrated with my calendar and my Gmail and my sheets and all that stuff, but it doesn't compare to the rest of the experience. Like it's just not,
Yep.
and I'm not a huge brand guy. Like I'm never going to go die on the Apple Hill, you know,
Yeah,
but
I'm not going for the first release of anything. I
Yeah.
don't need the cool. Yeah.
yeah, but that's actually, I didn't think about that. It's going to give them something to,
Yeah. All those friends, because those
Yeah.
people I'm talking about.
We all have them. We all have them.
Yeah, exactly.
We might have some of the same ones in the industry.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of the industry, our last bit of news for today is so again, this is our first episode of 2026, and with that, we have seen our first few acquisitions of the year.
Yep.
I've only seen a few small funding rounds, so we're going to focus on the acquisitions. But there are 4 that I have spotted. So Phenom has made one. That was Included AI. Remote acquired Atlas, the expense management platform. Venture just grabbed Distro, a recruiting tool. And Docebo got 360, and they actually provided the terms on that one, which I thought was interesting because
What were the terms on that one? I didn't
So
notice.
the terms on that one were, let's see. Pursuant to the definitive agreement among shareholders, approximately $54.6 million in cash consideration. They have agreed to pay up to $5.1 million in additional earn-out cash consideration contingent upon the achievement of certain financial milestones. And they expect that 365 Talents will generate approximately $9 million in revenue from the period following the closing of the transaction through the end of this year.
Okay.
So that's a lot more. I mean, obviously we're talking, I guess it's because they're publicly held. That's why they provided the terms, but still, that's a lot more information than we typically get in these press releases. But yeah, thoughts on any of those moves?
Well, that's an interesting one because the terms are there. And if you look at 54 million and if let's just call it 9 million next year, assuming that growth, right? Let's say there's growth implied. So they're under 9 million, somewhere under 9 million. Let's call them 8 million just to be conservative. Then we're talking about like a 7x multiple. That's very average. There's a little bit of additional earnout. So they could boost it a little bit, maybe make themselves or their investors a little more money. That's actually the reason the terms are disclosed is because it's a solid deal.
Yeah.
And I think it highlights like a lot of folks, it's not all about the money all the time. And a lot of people I know are probably scoffing at that, but sometimes it's about, hey, we're not growing. We're small. It's difficult to raise money right now. We're looking for the best thing for our product, the best thing for our people. And all the deals, the acquisitions that you see are not big, huge money-making events. And it kind of makes me, I think they all should be applauded because to get a deal done is a big deal in and of itself. A lot of deals don't get done. A lot of companies are shuttering right now, but not every deal is about the big payday. It's just about living another day. And so anyhow, I think that's good. That's good. I don't know 365 Talents. I know the company that
that neither one of us can totally pronounce. I think I might have butchered it.
Docebo.
Yeah. Docebo. My apologies to the team there for massacring their name.
Yeah.
But
Phenom,
props to them. Yeah. Phenom.
Yeah. Phenom's a good one to talk to because Phenom is, look at the headlines, they're another all AI all the time player. And I would imagine these class action lawsuits are causing them a little bit of concern.
Mm-hmm.
Either the outcomes that could impact them, or might they be, somebody's list somewhere for the next defendant.
Mm-hmm.
Included, I think it's analytics.
Mm-hmm.
What I do know about Phenom is that when they make an acquisition, they are really acquiring the IP, and, they get the customers and they get the team and all that, but they rebuild that product. So for when they acquire, I know this, when they acquire
Mm-hmm.
Included, that comes with an assumption that key players are going to be at Phenom for some time
Mm-hmm.
to, insert that knowledge, and whatever they're buying, they're inserting it. And that's their model. They're very open about it. In my circles, anyhow, they talk about it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want that one platform, that one code base for their customers and for their model. So I think that's interesting to note for everyone. Remote acquiring Atlas makes sense. Venture, you said it earlier, this is probably their millionth acquisition there.
Alex
they do.
Campos is on a world domination tour, and he is getting it done.
Yeah. And it's genius too. They're running a playbook that nobody else is running. And it's not just about the acquisitions, but they're doing things and diversifying. Like, Distro is a talent acquisition platform, but they're both fueling the PEO marketplace, and they are one of the biggest PEOs in the market.
Yep.
And they own Namely, and they're global
Prism
now.
HR, they have Venture, they've got Namely. Yeah.
And they're doing if you're, they also do employer of record.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you are hiring 5 people in Paris, and you're not in Paris and you don't have a location in Paris, and Paris may not be one of the locations they do. This is just an example.
Yeah.
But they also have real estate. So commercial real estate. So, you're hiring 5 people in Paris and you need an EOR and you need this and that for payroll and compliance and benefits, yada, yada. Do you need desks? Do you need a place for them to sit? Okay, we've got that too. And it's just, they're really looking at like a turnkey workforce solution. I like them a lot, but make no mistake. They are this new hybrid of private equity and tech in our space.
Mm-hmm.
Like JobGet in the job board space. Like they basically are the, private equity and job board clothing is what they are. Yeah.
Everything. And this is a note that I did notice on both Included and Distro. So Included was Phenoms and Distro was Ventures. Both of those companies were founded in 2021. So those are both like COVID era startups that have now been picked off.
Yeah.
I just want to keep an eye on that because, that COVID era of innovation, for lack of a better term. This might be the year that all of those this might be. You
didn't know this. You just teed up a segue to my rose and thorn.
Did I?
You did.
Look at that. And here we are at the end anyways. Okay. So what's your rose?
Okay. So what you teed up was my thorn, but I will start with the rose, which relates to the thorn.
Okay.
So I've been really encouraged, just put out last week the 2025 analysis on all the funding in the space. So 2025 was behind 2021 and 2022. The third biggest year ever. $6.24 billion came into the space. 15 mega deals over 100 million, which is just nutty. And the early stage, like seed deals, grew. Average size of seed deals went down from 5.4 to 5 million, but grew in number. Now, a lot more people are vying for seed deals, so it doesn't feel easy to get your seed deal right now, but they're up across the board globally. So those are that big number, the 6.24 billion number. It breeds a little bit of optimism that there's innovation happening, especially really that seed number. But the thorn is that everybody in the middle. So if you already had your seed and you were raising it, those numbers are all down.
Okay.
And my headline was, the market it isn't shrinking, it's getting squeezed. Anybody who, like, if you're trying to raise an A right now, you probably came to market in 2020 or 2021. So that's a really good point that you make. And it's becoming the most difficult space to be in, is in that trying to get from early stage to growth stage. Because if you came to market before this chat GPT world that we live in now, you were like a 100% SaaS model. If you had AI, it was in a black box. We didn't talk about it. It was an algorithm. Probably wasn't really AI. It was probably machine learning. And you went overnight in a rapid fashion. You went to old wave. New wave is rethinking things. That's where the money's going and that's where the energy's going. But my thorn is what's happening in the middle. A lot of good people, a lot of good ideas, a lot of good products with a lot of good customers. And it's tough out there. So it's another weird mix of like a lot of capital and growth, but at the same time, a lot of pain in the market. At the same time.
Yeah, I am hearing some not so great stories these days. It's tough for a lot of people right now.
It is. It is.
Well, your rose and thorn were a lot more intellectual than mine, we'll say. So I'll end on a slightly lighter note, I guess. My thorn is that, as you mentioned at the beginning of this episode here, you and I are both on the East Coast. There is a massive storm heading our way, but it's not just heading our way, it's also heading towards the south and like a big swath of the US here. And the forecasts, as we all know, weather forecasts are not great. It's anywhere between like 6 to like 18 inches where I live, and I live at the beach, so we very, very rarely get snow. But so that's my thorn, because I'm not much of a winter person, despite having grown up in the New York metro area. But I will end with my rose, and that is we are approaching the end of January here, and February 1st, halfway to spring.
Excellent.
So
excellent. That's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
I like that.
That's my optimism. So, well, we did it. We're back for 2026.
We did it. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, as always.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back again soon.
Yeah, there's lots happening, so stay tuned.
I hope you make it through the storm.
Yeah, you too. Keep your heater on.
Yeah, thanks.
Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to or watching Up Next at WorkTech, brought to you by the Work Defined Podcast Network, the Devon Group, and WorkTech.